typically do my own electrical, but
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. And do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll move to adopt the agenda as it reads.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh, great. And any discussion? Okay, if not, let's go, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Being none, that passes. And on to the approval of minutes. Does anyone have any corrections?
nope.
No? Okay.
I only had one. It's on line 267, really small typo. Says she stated she liked. It says she stated he liked Terry's idea of this. That's it.
Did you catch that?
I got it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I had a few actually that I found too, but I forgot it on my printer, so we'll just forget them.
Do you want to email me tomorrow?
Yeah, they were just real minor
Okay.
things, like
Typographical.
wait instead of way, things like that. I'll email them to you.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved with the correction.
Corrections? And the second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed?
I will abstain.
Okay. So those minutes are approved, and now we're going to go on to the public hearing section. Mr. Burke?
Yeah, give me one moment here. The right page. 11. All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. On June 12th, 2024, the city received an application for a variance to reduce the rear yard setback from 10 feet to 5 feet for the placement of a detached accessory building at 20738 Tyler Street Northeast. The applicant's property is located in a single-family R1 zoning district, and it's in the Hidden Haven Country Club Estates development. Accessory structures are an approved accessory use in the R1 zoning district. The property is recorded at 0.87 acres and would permit one detached accessory building at a maximum square footage of 11,000 square feet by the East Bethel zoning code. Well placement and septic locations do not interfere with the placement of this detached accessory structure in any other location on the property. All properties in the Hidden Haven Country Estates have a platted drainage and utility easement on all property lines of the perimeter of their property. The city does not permit the placement of structures in drainage and utility easements. The property has a 10-foot easement along the rear property line. To hear requests for variances from the literal provisions of the ordinance in instances where their strict enforcement would cause practical difficulties because of the circumstances unique to the individual property under consideration, and to grant such variances only when it demonstrates that such actions will be in keeping with the spirit and the intent of the ordinance. Practical difficulties as used in connection with the granting of a variance means that the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, not permitted by an official control. The plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the landowner. And the variance, if granted, would not alter essential character of the locality, and economic considerations alone do not constitute a practical difficulty. The consideration of a variance requires that the Planning Commission consider a 3-factor test of practical difficulty. The first factor is a test of reasonableness, which means that the landowner would likely use the property in a practical way, but cannot do so under the rules of the ordinance. It does not mean that the land could not be put to reasonable use whatsoever without the variance. In this case, accessory structures are an approved accessory use in an R1 zoning district. Placing the accessory building, as required by ordinance, would not deny the landowner reasonable use of their property. There is 85 feet of rear yard on this property. Well placement and septic locations, as I stated before, do not interfere with the placement of the detached accessory structure in other locations in the rear yard. The second factor is that the landowner's problem is due to circumstances unique to the property and not caused by the landowner. The uniqueness generally relates to the physical characteristics of a piece of property, that is, to the land, and not the personal characteristics or preferences of the landowner. In this case, the property is 182 feet in depth, and the house was placed 48 feet from the front right-of-way, leaving 85 feet of rear yard. A majority of the lots in the development are 3/4 to 1 acre in size. There is a small grove of trees stretching across the rear property line. The third factor is that a variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. This factor is used to consider whether the resulting structure would be out of scale, out of place, or otherwise inconsistent with the surroundings. In this case, every lot in the Hidden Haven Country Club Estates has a 10-foot drainage and utility easement following the perimeter of their property. There are other accessory buildings in the rear yards throughout the development. However, none required a variance for placement. And the proposed accessory building placement is to the rear of the house, and in combination with the tree cover, the accessory building would not be visible from the right-of-way. The Planning Commission should review the application information, hold a public hearing, and make a recommendation to the City Council to approve or deny the variance request to reduce the rear yard setback from 10 feet to 5 feet for the placement of a detached accessory structure.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna have the public hearing on this. Would anyone like to come and speak about this matter?
You'll have to open it.
I don't have to do that, right?
No,
I'm
you
gonna
just have to
open up-
call for an opening.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Okay, no one wants to speak? Okay, if not, then we will close the public hearing. And now we're gonna have some discussion, and I think we are not making motions for discussion.
Yeah.
Anybody want to say anything?
Can I ask about that? Like, there's a photo in here with what looks like the yardsticks and the pink tape, and that's the proposed location. Where does that chain link fence in relation to that?
My
That's
assumption is the chain link fence is on the rear property line that splits between the golf course and this parcel of
Okay,
property.
so that's within that easement?
That would be right on the property line
Okay, so that 10-foot easement comes in past that?
from the fence towards the house.
Okay.
Was
As
there,
you, as you can see on the drawing, the applicant has submitted the 10-foot easement is this dashed line, and he is proposing to split that essentially by putting the shed 5 feet in to the easement.
oh, I didn't realize that was the shed. It's such a small.
Yeah.
The proportions don't look right
I
to me.
don't think it is
Not the scale.
proportionate to the
Yeah.
to what's going to be put there or what's proposed to be put there.
Yeah.
This is more probably representative of the width and length of what's proposed.
It's 16 by 32, correct? I think that's what it shows.
If that's what's on the drawing.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yep.
Mhm.
Personally, I don't see any practical difficulty in going in. I don't see why he needs to go into the 5 feet into it. I guess that's the struggle I have here. I don't see a reason to grant a variance as that he can't meet the practical difficulties. He could move that 5 feet closer to the house and be within the utility easement, or be outside of it and not
Yeah.
need a variance.
Do you know why he wants to have it that far back?
He would like the 5 extra feet of his rear yard.
Okay.
And then on his application, he states that by moving it 5 feet deeper, it can be hidden better.
I agree with you, Tanner. I think that my recommendation, when we make one for you guys to consider, would be to deny it due to the 10-foot easement. Everybody else in that area is abiding by it, and by moving it 5 feet, and there's no hardship involved if we don't move it, then we are allowing him to just not follow what we currently have in ordinance. So I think it's important that unless there's a difficulty for the landowner, that we should follow the ordinance.
Is anyone here seeing a reason to advocate for the variance?
Not without trying really hard.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to deny.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion to deny the variance, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, being none, that motion passes.
The motion to deny passes and goes.
The
before city
recommendation to
Recommendation.
deny will go to the city council on August 12th, I believe is the date.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Berg is gonna go on to the next item.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. On June 12th, 2024, the city received an application from Randy Crumpler, owner of Crumpler Properties LLC and Boat World, for a conditional use permit for exterior storage on a parcel at 21125 Highway 65 Northeast, which he had recently purchased. The parcel is adjacent to Boat World, the Boat World parcel at 21155 Highway 65 Northeast. Crumpler was wanting to extend the exterior storage of boats and pontoons from the Boat World business onto the adjacent parcel. Both parcels are located in the B2 zoning district, where by city ordinance, exterior storage and exterior display of merchandise associated with retail sales is identified as a conditional use requiring a permit. After reviewing the zoning code, staff have identified that boat sales are called out specifically as a conditional use in a B3 highway commercial zone only, and not as a permitted use in a B2 zone. Retail sales and service conducted completely inside a structure is permitted in a B2 zone. However, I have attached the zoning code, which is page 23 for you for reference. Staff have determined that Boat World's use of 21155 Highway 65 Northeast is a legal non-conforming use and has been continued through transfers of ownership prior to rezoning of the city. Section 05, subsection 2, a non-conforming use may be continued, including through repair, replacement, or restoration, maintenance, or improvement, but not including an expansion. Our non-conformity statute is on page 27 for your reference. The newly purchased parcel at 21125 Highway 65 Northeast has no legal non-conforming designation and should conform to our current zoning code. Crumpler is proposing a new retail operation occurring inside the building on the parcel. However, it is not boat or pontoon sales, but wanted to extend storage of Boat World's exterior storage onto the new lot. Section 24 on page is the zoning code for exterior storage in the B2. That is page 31 for your reference. Under the current proposal, the exterior storage and display of boats and or pontoons would not meet the conditions of city ordinance, and the expansion of the legal nonconformity is not allowed by city ordinance or Minnesota state statute without a variance. Crumpler has advised city staff that he does not want to combine the two lots, and which would necessitate a variance as well due to the non-conforming classification. Section 46 sub 4O does identify that other uses similar to those permitted in this section as determined by the city council as a conditional use. So in reference to that, potentially boat sales could be recognized as a conditional use. Exterior storage not associated with retail operations happening on a parcel of property in a B2 could also be considered a conditional use. However, it's not connected to the retail sales happening on the parcel of property. The Planning Commission should review the information, hold a public hearing, and recommend to the City Council approval with current exterior storage requirements, approval with alternative conditions, or denial of the conditional use permit for exterior storage. The applicant is here. and I'm sure he'd be happy to answer some questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to open the public hearing now. First of all, does anyone want to speak to this before the owner comes up? And if not, then if you could please come up. And just kind of let us know.
Well, Madam
Your
Chair,
voice,
if I could, I think it's appropriate, we can close the public hearing at this time and then just have him up here. It's
either
a
way,
working
doesn't matter.
piece, but it just, that way it doesn't leave it open and we don't forget to close it later, is all.
Well, I'll close it when he's done.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
I made a drawing of where I want to store those. I can hand it out if that's okay.
Please.
Thank you.
So you'll see I have on this drawing a yellow area, that would be a fence line. A green area where I'd like to take out the fence that exists right now. And the checkered red zone would be the area where I'd like to put those.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so right now I'm relying on driving down to near the movie theater at 18553 for storage of boats. That property is going to go away from me in the next year and a half, and I won't be able to store the boats there. I need that amount of space to maintain the current business size and employment that we have. It is basically equal to this area right here that I have drawn out there. And it's much more convenient than the round trip of 6 miles back and forth with the boats. So that was the general idea that I just wanted to make it easier for us. I would like to landscape this to open it up so I can drive through the property from between the two buildings that you see at the storage buildings in the back. And just fence off along the line that you see there on the drawing. And then keep the business open, the driveway, front area for visibility. My daughter would like to, in conjunction with me, start a store selling marine products out of there. So it's something separate from that, from the storage area.
Can you start over now?
Just kidding.
No.
I was going to too. I'm like, where did I start at?
So this would be, the building would be a separate entity
Yeah.
altogether, but a related product.
Yeah,
Okay.
On the new property or the old property?
just this building, right, the old property. So I don't know what old property is, sorry. I won't be selling boats out of the building at the 2125, the one on the
Yeah.
south here.
So,
Go ahead.
from what I understand is you're not interested in combining the two lots, but essentially you're gonna have, what you want to do is have your own driveway connecting the two, you say?
Yes,
Yep.
I would combine the two lots if that's what I had to do, but I always like to hedge against something going wrong one day, so I was hopeful I could sell it if I needed to by not having
Sure.
it, one large property.
Sure. So essentially you'd lease it back, you're one entity that owns
Yeah,
the
I'm-
one lot.
I'll
Lot
lease it to
A would
myself.
Would lease a portion of the land back to other entity
Exactly.
to create the financial interest.
Yep.
How tall is that proposed fence that you talk about here, the yellow line?
The current fence that I have is a 6-foot fence with barbed wire coming off of it.
So you'd
So
do
I'll
s-
just continue that,
Okay.
or even reuse that and move it around.
I think what you're leading to is screening versus.
Yeah, like
versus Containment.
what is our requirement for screening for exterior storage?
Page 33 of your packet has all of the requirements for
Thank you.
storage, exterior storage in the B2. 33 spills onto 34.
If the city council ended up denying this, what would happen with your property, do you think?
Probably the same thing without storage, and I would just lose a lot of money. But it's a gamble I was willing to take. I came to the city over a year ago to discuss the property, and we thought it might be a good possibility that could actually get approved. It sold in between me discussing it with the city and being able to buy it. So it came back for sale again a year later here, and I said, I'm just gonna do it. So a little bit of a risk on my part, but
Yeah,
I was
gonna say-
hopeful that it would work.
Yeah, I was gonna say, had you considered, buying it contingent to getting approval?
Yeah, I didn't wanna miss out again, so
Okay, sure.
if it happened, it is what
Yeah,
it is, right? Yeah.
Is there a septic system or a well or anything in the fenced area for the?
Can I point out where the
Yeah.
septic system, so there's a new septic system that the people who built the lot 3 years ago did. here, and here's the drain field here, so these two areas here. These areas here, there's nothing here, there's runoff that was created, these two areas.
Okay.
Nothing, this is just open. There's a little bit of a leveling that has to be done right there.
So is that drain area gonna be removed towards the road,
No.
towards Davenport?
No,
That'll still-
yeah, I would want to leave this here for runoff, snow moving, whatnot for the storage.
So as far as landscaping, you did talk about, you know, trying to make some sort of access there, but what about storage on all the vegetation there, all the grass? Like I'd imagine you'd have to do away with most of that.
Yes, I've had to do that on other areas of our existing property where they'll have to go through and remove the sprinkler system and lay down class 5 or something, whatever's up to code for that.
How's your business doing since you moved there?
It was a good move to move up there from where we were at.
Good. Anyone down here?
Yeah, I have one question. So basically what you want to do is you're running out of space to store boats based on the demand that you're seeing in your business. So if you weren't able to have that expansion, it would cause you to have to turn away business.
Absolutely.
So are you renting property right now where you're storing your other boats? You said over by the movie theater?
Yes.
Okay, so they're selling or they're doing something else?
Yeah, the current owner is planning on selling in the next
Sure.
year.
Okay.
Yep.
No one else? Okay, I think we will close the public hearing then.
Thank you.
And any discussion from the
I
commission?
do have a number of items that we need to clarify, so whenever
Sure.
you guys want to hear those, I'd be more than happy to provide those.
Go ahead, we
All
would
right,
love to hear you.
This expansion is an expansion of a legal nonconformity, right? So moving sales onto a lot is an expansion of the lot. This in front of you is a conditional use permit. This is not a variance request. So if that is the direction the city would like to go, the applicant's gonna need to apply for a variance in order to expand his business onto the other lot. Ultimately, boat sales that are occurring on a parcel that is not related to the retail sales happening inside the business is a conditional use permit question that the council can answer, because the council can grant an other use, not a primary use approved in the zone. So what I'm getting at is boat sales is a B3. It's not a B2.
Yeah.
So the council can approve a conditional use permit for boat sales in an alternative business zone. In this case, we're not talking boat sales. We're talking boat storage.
Yeah.
Exterior storage is a conditional use of the business happening on the property. I'm not sure how we overcome all of these particular hurdles. I haven't thought this one through. Nor would I know. I may have to do some research and to see if this is how we would word things if we were going to approve exterior storage on a lot that's the business is not, it's not related to the business that's happening on the parcel. That our code is not set up for that to happen. So ultimately the council can decide whatever they want. You guys can provide me with whatever conditions you want to recommend. I do know that Mr. Crumpler has been looking for other storage options as long as I've been employed by the city. This so far has been the closest for him, but it does have its own challenges.
Hence section 4640.
To me, this seems like the most sensible solution for the business owner. And it's only technicalities which are important, but that would cause one to hesitate. But as far as a sensible use, and that we want to encourage successful businesses in the city, I think it's a great idea. The only thing I would perhaps recommend is the fence separating the storage from what's currently the Thistle and Ivy building have some kind of better screening than just a chain link or whatever kind of fence, but have a visual barrier like planting or something, so that from the highway and from the business that would be going in there, it doesn't just look out into boat storage. But that, other than that, I like the idea. I would like to hope the city can make it work.
Yeah, me too. If you guys can take a look at page 27 of your packets, it talks about nonconformities, and it says only exceptional cases of expansion or intensification of a nonconforming use will be permitted, and only after city approval of a variance. And so what I'm looking at here is that, this is an exceptional case, in my opinion, that this is a really good business, has been here a long time, and we'd like to accommodate if possible. But it seems to me that you're not seeing how it is possible right now.
I'm not saying that it's not possible. I just don't know if requiring him to apply and get a variance for this expansion onto the other lot is the right direction to go. Or is approving a conditional use permit for exterior storage that's not associated with the business happening on the property, does the council have the right to do that? Because exterior storage is a conditional use in any of our business zones. So the hiccup I have is that in a B2, the exterior storage in a B2 can only be associated with the operation happening on that parcel. And if these are kept as separate parcels, then the retail operation happening in the building is not associated with the exterior storage. That's my broad question that maybe the council would need to answer. Is would they approve that as a standalone conditional use instead of a condition of the business?
Right, because the conditional use would go with that property forever.
Correct.
As a standalone.
Because they're not adjoined parcels, it's a separate parcel. And in order to adjoin the parcels, that's an expansion which requires a variance. So as you can see, we're working our way in circles, and I don't know how we break the circle until one or the other is approved. I don't know how we get that to that point.
And I thought I read, I could be wrong, that if you join the parcels in something like this, then you can't split them apart later? Or
And allow them to be still legally non-conforming? They would have to become conforming?
That's a question of the variance. If the city wishes to allow that to happen, we've seen other cases where a variance has been approved, and we've seen other cases where variances were denied for this exact same nonconformity situation. So,
Tanner, you're the guy that knows all of the ins and outs of these things.
I'm running through a few scenarios in my head here, so if I speak off the cuff, feel free to correct me anywhere along the way here. All right, I'm just trying to run through a couple scenarios in my head. If one, let's see here, it can't be an expansion if it's the same LLC there, right? It's an expansion of the business, right, from that aspect. I'm trying to think from the ownership piece to the lease piece versus the storage, right? It's not an expansion of the neighboring property to the north if it's his business and it's allowed exterior storage and he's leasing it back to any individual to operate, whether it be 1% or 99% of said location. That's still his business, and he's got a lease for another tenant in said building, and he's got exterior storage, and that's just part of his operation, right? His 1% of the location is for exterior storage of said things, and then it's not an expansion of one business as opposed to being just an exterior storage and a sublease to boat supplies, right? And I'm trying to run my insurance head through here about, insurability, things like that. That's like, I guess part of where my brain runs with this from that aspect. Is that even remotely close if I'm trying to fit a square peg in a smaller round hole?
That's what I was thinking, that
Yeah,
makes sense.
I think that, we've had conversations with Mr. Crumpler over other lots that there wasn't a structure on, and we wouldn't allow strictly storage to happen on those lots either without some sort of sales hut, sales lot, sales something.
Okay.
So hypothetically, let's just say that this structure doesn't exist on this lot. This is just an empty lot. Although it's right next to his property, it's no different than the one across Sims that we've said no to for the last 3 years.
Okay.
Basically.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Yep.
However, convenience, yes, I think that this makes sense. We just have to figure out what is the proper
Sure.
procedure to make it happen.
And I see what you're saying with that. However, the scenario isn't that it's an empty lot. There is a said structure, right? So, and again, as formality as it is, right? And a quick backstory with insurance, you always have to have some sort of financial tie to it. Otherwise, you can't insure something. That's insurability. That's at its core. A lot of times we'll see commercial businesses where someone owns a vehicle and it's titled personally, and they'll do a $1 lease back to a corporation as a, for their small LLC. Now you've created a financial tie to it, and now you can insure it underneath the business when it's titled personally. Similar but different. I'm trying to take the same approach here to say, okay, let's just say you have throwing 2 or 3 entities into this mess, but okay, one entity, you as an individual, you own this lot and you lease it to company A. Company A has a file cabinet and a desk, and we're exterior storage, similar to the lot to the north of your other property, which actually is storage. But that's one entity that you now have that is, hey, we're here for exterior storage. You have one client, and that's Boat World. And you allow them, and you're leasing that space to them that is fenced, and there's your exterior storage company in your small file cabinet and desk in one corner of the building, and the other 99% of the building is leased to company B, just happens to be your daughter who wants to do boat marine products, etc. Does that check the boxes if there's exterior storage allowability? Maybe I'm getting too colorful. I'm just trying to run through the gambit here in my head. That's how I see it at the moment, but again, I could be missing.
I think what it comes down to is what is your and the council and the citizens of East Bethel, what is your palatability to allow for exterior storage for something that isn't happening on the parcel of property based on how the zoning code is written? That's really the question. Now, if you're okay with that, then maybe a conditional use permit for exterior storage on this parcel, although it's not associated with the business, makes sense. If that makes sense, but you think because it's connected to the business that a variance should be required, then you could make that a condition of your conditional use permit that in order to expand the nonconformity onto another lot, it should have a variance.
Well, I would just like to say that, I would like to see it happen. I don't know how much work it's gonna take on your part to do that, and you've got a full plate already, obviously. But I'd like to see it happen if we can.
We've grown quite a bit. We have a lot more residents. We have a lot more people using the lake. We have a lake. The need for boat storage in this, in East Bethel is increasing.
Well, this is more about sales, if
This
I remember
is-
correctly.
this
This
is
isn't even storage.
retail.
This is just
This is not-
retail.
Oh, it's just
sales.
for the,
This is inventory of bought product ready
oh,
to
so
go and
this
deliver.
is storage for new.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood
Or
that.
it's exterior
But-
storage for
but
just
still,
being there, but
yeah.
it's their product
Right.
or either sold items
Okay.
or ready to sell items.
But growth in that same aspect is there because more people are moving out here, are gonna be buying boats to utilize the lake. We have Lake George, we have Coon Lake. And this is becoming an area, you know, going north of 65 from Ham Lake is growing quite fast. And I agree with you, Sharon, that if there's a way that we can make it happen, that we try to do that to, you know, help him really, you know, do well in his business.
The one thing that I see on the negative side is, you know, this is going to be someday a prime property. And so do we want to be expanding that business there?
I think
Similar
maybe,
to,
maybe that's the benefit of not, you know, pushing to combine the two lots.
Mm-hmm.
Is then it's easy to sell and pull out of it and allow it to be its own lot versus just, you know, Boat World already looks like it's 2 combined lots, if not more, but so,
Well, that goes back to the Bethel Marine days, but that's a different story.
yeah.
Because CUPs have terms that have to be renewed, correct?
They do not.
Can you set a
We-
term on a conditional use?
You cannot.
You cannot,
You set conditions.
just the conditions.
And if the conditions are violated, then it could be removed for violation of conditions, but you can't set a limit, a time frame. That's
Okay.
an interim use permit.
Interim.
Yeah.
Can a condition be that this is only good until the lot is sold?
Like
No,
I see-
once you assign a conditional use permit to a parcel of property, the conditional use permit authority remains with the parcel of property forever.
Until it becomes conforming, if it became legal non-conforming at any given point, right?
And then it's reduced to a conforming, then it can't be brought back to a non-conforming. Correct. You guys are getting it finally.
It only took me 13 years, 14, sorry.
And so believe me, now that the city is growing, as you've identified, we have a number of legal non-conforming properties, and this scenario is not gonna go away. So I think, if I may,
Please.
I want to bring your attention to the parcels where Mr. Crumpler has alluded to the fact that he's already storing. So you can see them here. You can see here. And Randy, do you have any more?
No, that one right there, everything on right now, that's the one that I'm gonna lose.
and those are non-conforming now?
Those would have all been grandfathered in
Okay.
long before, yes.
Were they? I had to come here for meetings for those properties.
Okay, and so someone then approved exterior storage. But it sounds like the applicant's intention is to discontinue storage down here and move it closer to his business up here, which is,
Reasonable.
I mean, it helps us with creating a conforming lot down on the south end too.
Correct.
So
Does-
this one has a lot of benefits, but it
That's
has a lot of
exactly what it
hurdles.
is.
We gotta figure it out.
Just in an overall landscape, if this was approved somehow, does it help? Can we even, and would it benefit to put language in that if this is approved under a conditional, it's as a result of knowing that another lot is, that it's bringing another lot into a conforming standard?
Exactly.
So to trade, to help avoid precedent, or no?
No, it's a
Okay.
different parcel with a different parcel ID. That
Like I
doesn't-
said,
it's
that's
not
why I have to ask, I gotta.
So you're losing the lot that you currently are storing on?
The owner
Or
is
you-
82, and he's trying to sell all those properties. And I think he's selling people the clinic that's in front of the property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Things open?
Do you want to buy both?
Yeah.
No,
Scrounging for options.
it's not an option.
Yeah.
Is anyone smart enough to make a motion?
So, I mean,
I
I
really
think
I-
I simplified it to kind of help you guys out, you know,
Yep.
is, would you recommend to the council a conditional use permit for exterior storage on a parcel with a retail operation that doesn't match what the storage is? That's literally what it comes down to. And if you're okay with that, but you want the variance to satisfy that expansion of the, then
I
recommend the
almost-
variance. If
I
you
almost
don't want the
don't-
variance, then don't recommend a variance. Those are some options for you.
For what it's worth, I almost don't want a variance because I don't wanna create
Mhm.
precedents
Yep.
for something down the road and have something that's there. Obviously, it kinda came to me and I'm formulating it in my head in real time, but I think I almost like what I had proposed earlier of
Subletting the land.
he's gonna, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, you form a small LLC for exterior storage and you're leasing it back to yourself or to your one company to another. And then it's, again, now that property has two entities on it. You're basically an exterior storage company with one client and said other business and.
So exterior storage companies aren't part of conditional use allowed businesses, right? It's just the fact that if you've got exterior storage associated with retail sales and services.
Correct.
So in light of that, like, you'd have to have it, her retail business, and then, like you were talking, either sublet the property, and there'd have to be okay, yes, we're gonna allow you, despite what our code says, have exterior storage associated with exclusively retail sales and services. And I don't know how we'd
Yeah,
fit that.
I'm trying to draw the line to not tie it to the neighboring property. The fact there's common ownership
Right.
and the fact that the next door property has this. I'm trying to break that apart to pull that element away. So that way it's just, it happenstance at that point
Yeah.
that that's the person who's taking up all the exterior storage. If that was the case, if that was something that could be done, I don't know. I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to break it apart so we don't have that expanding piece to this. It just be no different than the fact that he's leasing land to the south farther.
Yeah.
So, or unless there's a way to copy whatever was done there that made that doable, hence he was here. But
So in following what Tanner's saying to do, wouldn't that fall in line on page 33, under number 5 with the B2 districts? Then if he's subleasing from the new parcel that has a different business and we would approve a conditional use permit for the exterior storage, he would just have to do the limit to the rear yard and shall not exceed the square footage of the principal building, which seems to be pretty small.
yeah, that one.
So that's where we get the hiccup on that.
And that's B3, isn't it? That's not.
It's B2,
This is
the
B2,
second one.
is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where we have the hiccup there.
So Tanner, I mean, I think it's a good idea what you're saying, but I'm concerned about us kind of telling Mr. Crumpler how to run his business and, I mean, it kind of through this whole thing and the legal fees that he would have in setting up another business and kind of going through it. Yes, sir.
Could I make a,
Why don't you come up to the mic, please?
Just, yeah, for the record.
Crumpler Properties doesn't own Boat World. Boat World is GRC NMC Inc. It's a totally different company. So I lease, Crumpler Properties owns that big building there and leases it to Boat World. Crumpler Properties could be in the business of storage.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's where I was.
So you're okay with that?
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah, I wasn't trying to tell a
Okay,
guy how to
good,
do it.
good,
I was
good.
just trying to create the difference.
Thank you.
Okay, so that would then resolve the B2 district, allowing them to have exterior storage, because Crumpler Properties then would also be the same business, but then we have the square footage of the
However,
building.
exterior storage in a B2 district has to be associated with the business happening inside the principal structure it's chaotic, to say the least.
can I make an effort at a motion?
Go for it.
I'd like to make a motion to approve a conditional use permit for exterior storage on parcel at 21125 Highway 65 Northeast that differs from the business that would be occurring on that property in recognition of the unique and special circumstances pertaining to both properties.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Great. Any more discussion?
I need to follow along with that before I say aye.
Yeah, I have a hard time with talking about the other property because that directly ties it back together. And I think that's where we may get in trouble in the future with other properties.
So we have a,
Leave it pretty general and vague
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
okay, do you want to continue on with your motion? Or did you
Or
want
amend
to
it. There's a
withdraw it?
motion and a
Well,
second, so there
I'm
have to be
willing
an amendment.
to entertain ideas on how to amend it to make it better and yet inclusive of what we're working with.
So at this point, do we just leave it there, the motion?
Well, it's up
or
for
does it-
discussion,
with-
so we
yeah.
can discuss it
Yeah.
and I can amend it if
Yeah.
something comes up in the discussion.
Yeah, if we saw it wasn't going to approve, but there was a feeling of it, somebody could make a motion to amend the motion, there'd be a second, a vote on that, and then there'd be the vote on the new amended motion.
Mhm.
If I think I ran that
Sounds-
through in my head,
Sounds good?
if Randy was here.
I mean,
He'd
that's
tell me
exactly
otherwise,
all
maybe,
it would
but.
have to be due if we're gonna vote on this motion.
Correct, yeah, we'd have, if that was the case, unless someone called the question. Like I said, I don't know what the language is on it quite yet in my head here. I'm just,
You can also die, you can also be amended. There are many ways.
true, yeah.
Well, because as I say, instead of having to amend a motion, you could withdraw that motion, and then you could submit a new
True.
motion. And then
Yes,
that way we
thank
wouldn't
you.
have to have that.
Would probably be easier.
Yeah,
So let's achieve consensus on what that should read and then we can decide how to
Okay.
put it forward. What do we need to do to improve it?
I know I don't wanna say anything about tying the neighboring property, because I don't think that although the storage is extending from there, I feel like it can still be separate. I like the idea.
Do you
of
want to
keeping it
approve a
apart.
conditional use permit for exterior storage on a lot or
Why
not?
not?
That's
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
Exactly.
simple.
I mean, it's
Yes.
kind of
Could
a- you started
You
off
can
great.
ignore
Thank
the
you.
fact
Thank
that
you.
there's a business on there, the
Yeah.
council
Yeah.
can make that choice. Do you want to see exterior storage as a conditional use on a standalone or not?
And it
I
can be
do.
on there forever.
It will be there forever if
Yeah.
that is the case.
I'll take a run at a motion,
If Glenn's willing to withdraw.
Sure.
if you're willing. Okay, you have to withdraw.
Are
Okay,
you withdrawing that?
I'll make a motion to withdraw my motion.
So moved.
Do we have to vote on that too?
Nope,
Okay,
Nope.
good.
nope, if he's
Okay.
withdrawing it, that's,
Alrighty,
that's
yep.
withdrawn.
Perfect.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that, to the city council for approval with the current existing storage requirements and approval with alternative conditions if they can be sought within city regulations and ordinance. Or if they can be obtained within city regulations and ordinance. Because currently we can't meet those, right? And the city council has to decide whether or not that's something we're
Well,
going to be able to do.
So the current regulations for exterior storage, I think that was on 33.
That was the footprint of the building,
So that is gonna give,
small amount.
exterior storage is limited to the rear yard and shall not exceed the square footage of the principal building.
Okay, so that limits
So he's
it.
gonna store probably 2 pontoons on that lot.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If he tries to meet the code.
We're trying for it.
Okay, let's see, current.
You can make different conditions for exterior storage, that is
I was
an option,
just
so.
gonna say, so let me rephrase my motion
Okay.
if I still can. I would recommend make a motion to recommend to the city council approval with alternative exterior storage requirements
So approval of a conditional use permit.
of a conditional use permit, yes, for the property being requested.
Okay,
that
you
make
wanna
sense?
name your alternative conditions?
I have none.
Fencing.
I was
with
just gonna say,
screening.
let me get to the
Screen fencing.
alternative conditions would be,
Per applicant's plan.
per applicant's plan and not being restricted to the square footage based on the additional property found on the parcel, and not being requirement to the
The
square
structure,
footage.
you mean?
The structure on the property. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're essentially agreeing that what he's provided you is what you would give as a condition.
Mhm.
And you're ignoring the rest of the requirements.
Okay, so what is the motion then?
I don't want to say that.
I think what she said was she was making a motion to approve the conditional use permit with alternative conditions
Yeah.
that replace the exterior storage, fencing, and screening requirements with the applicant's proposed fencing and exterior storage and screening plan.
Perfect.
And removing the, or, the.
The square
stipula-
footage
Yeah,
requirements.
square footage requirements.
I think that's,
Yeah.
that's assumed by the applicant request.
Yeah,
Okay.
the applicant.
The
All
only
right,
thing
do
I
we
would
have a
add in
s-
there that it's screened storage.
Okay, so, do I
I can
have
write
to
that up.
repeat?
Okay.
Nope. Yeah, because I think that it's really important that we, let the council consider that, because they've been a long time business.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Fabulous. Any more discussion? If,
I think there's one condition that worries me from the public service side is that the drainage pond doesn't get crept into with boat storage. So I don't know if he would have to put,
The way he's got it.
he's got it
here-
marked off on red,
Mm-hmm.
but if he could, I don't wanna say put another fence up, but just assure,
A curb, perhaps?
some type of a. So you-
I'll take a look at the recorded plat or the county's plan and see if there's a identified drainage and utility easement there. The city does permit the placement of fences in drainage and utility easements as long as they are permeable. However, if we would need to do maintenance, if that was dedicated to the city, we would take the fence down, but we would not be responsible for replacing the fence. So I'm just trying to get myself to that lot here.
There it is. Just wondering, could you invert the fence then to just, instead of being on the exterior of it, to the interior of it?
Or ask.
okay,
No,
Mr.
sorry.
Crumpler?
So I originally drew that with a fence on that side of the
Pond.
drainage pond. But then I realized when we snowplow and try to move things out of the way, we're ending up ramming that fence. That area is gonna be way too soft for a 15,000-pound forklift to drive on. It's not gonna be an area that can be approached on. And that's why I've drawn it that way. At first, I thought a fence on the other side would make more sense, because I knew you would ask if I'm gonna wreck the drainage ponds to the property. But, yeah, it's not really an option to do that.
Okay, thank you.
And whoever drives the forklift might have a bad day.
Yeah.
And drive them off the property.
Okay, any more discussion? If not, we'll vote on this. All in favor of the motion to approve the conditional use permit with the
Conditions, right?
conditions that we stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Being none, that motion passes. And thank you for your patience
Phase one.
with us.
Yeah. City, what, August 12th, city council?
Yes, it'll move to August 12th to the city council meeting or the 28th, I'm sorry, the applicant has asked for it to be
The 28th?
moved another 2 weeks because of availability. So we will move it there.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, the next item up is a variance.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. The address 20063 University Avenue Northeast. The applicant is requesting a variance for the placement of a detached accessory structure closer to the street or right-of-way than the primary structure due to wetland restrictions on his property. The property is located in a rural residential zoning district. zoning code, appendix A, general regulations, section 14.2F states that no accessory building or detached private garage shall be located nearer the front line than the principal building except when there is 3 acres or greater and the existing building is located a minimum of 200 feet from the lot line. Then the accessory building or detached private garage may be located closer to the front lot line than the principal dwelling, but not closer than 50% of the principal dwelling setback. This property is 5.37 acres with a primary structure setback of 125 feet from the front property line. This request does not meet the criteria set forth to allow the structure to be placed closer to the road, so a variance would be required for the placement of a detached accessory structure. The applicant's property is over 5 acres in size, however, nearly 2 acres are wetland or lowlands extending from the northeast corner of the lot diagonally to the south property line. Section 66-255 requires a minimum building and septic setback distance from a delineated edge of a wetland at 25 feet. Additionally, since this variance request is for the placement in the front of the primary residence, according to section 42.7B sub 2, the front yard setback distance for structural placement in a rural residential zone is 40 feet. Therefore, if a variance for this placement is approved, the detached accessory structure would need to meet the minimum 40-foot setback from the right-of-way. The consideration of a variance requires the Planning Commission consider a 3-factor test for practical difficulty. Would you guys like me to read the 3 factors all over again, or should I
No.
just?
No.
Okay, here we go. In this case, accessory structures are permitted, and a permitted accessory use in the rural residential single-family zoning district. A septic system is located on the north side of the property. In this case, the second factor, the property is over 5 acres in size. However, nearly 2 acres are wetlands that extend from the northeast corner of the lot diagonally to the south property line. Wetland setbacks are identified in code as 25 feet from the delineated edge of the wetland. The third factor is essential character. And in this case, there is standing tree growth between the proposed detached accessory structure and the front property line, which will screen it from the right-of-way. The Planning Commission should review the request, hold a public hearing, and recommend approval of the variance to the City Council as presented in Resolution 2024-49.
Thank you, Mr. Berg. And we will open the public hearing. If anyone would like to come and speak to this. If not, we will close the public hearing and start our discussion.
I don't see any other decent place for exterior storage here, other than what's proposed.
So this is the wetland overlay that shows what I tried to describe as the nearly 2 acre wetland from the northeast corner to the south property line. The proposed location of the building is right here. You can see this is the house and the current garage. It must be a minimum of 25 feet from this delineated edge of the wetland and must be 40 feet from the right-of-way line here. If you look at the applicant's property, there's already some area there that prematurely may have been cleared for the potential
He had exterior storage in that area for
happening
a while.
on his property, but that is the general location of where the proposed building would be placed. If you look at it, the septic treatment system is up here and the well is at the back of the house. Realistically, there is no other location on this property
Right.
that a detached accessory building could be placed.
So what, like I can see the dimensions of it, the 72 by 46. Is there any other detail as far as like what type of building material is going to be used? Is it going to be sided, you know, kind of to match the house, or is it just?
It would follow the rest of the.
It would have to
code.
fall into the architectural features required by code, building code. It closely needs to match the existing structure on the property, color, style.
Size. Can't be taller. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
What is the size limit for this property?
Ooh,
Be over 1,100 based on.
so that is a complicated math problem that I need a calculator to do. So anything over Yeah, he would not be permitted to build something bigger than zoning code would allow. So since this property is 5 acres or larger, at 5 acres, you get 3,000 square feet, 3,000 square feet plus an additional 240 square feet for every increment thereof. So if it was
6 acres would be
6
3240.
acres, you could get, yeah, so you do the math and that's how you figure out the appropriate square footage.
So, yeah, right now the proposed building is 3,312.
Yep.
So we're over. Is that what I'm hearing?
Sounds like it's a little over. John?
You said
Or-
240 per tenth, is that what you said? What was the extra 240? Sorry.
Per increment
Increment, so
Increment.
every quarter.
every quarter.
And he's got,
0.01.
And although that's what's proposed, that doesn't mean that that's what's gonna get approved. He just needs to know that
he can
the
build something.
location can be there, and then once we get the application, we can work on the allowables and architectural requirements. And those
Okay.
other. If you look at the resolution, I believe I put a statement in the resolution that obligates him to meet all other zoning code requirements, which would be size, height,
Yeah.
shape.
So we're just,
Setbacks.
He may potentially have to shrink it down.
Yeah,
is
your
what-
Yeah.
your
what
real
we're getting
question
at.
is, can it be in front of the house or not?
exactly.
Yeah.
That's the question in front of you
And the size is going to be determined by,
by zoning code.
I'd say based on past variances, I mean, this does fit all three factors in the test, and in the past, when we've approved similar, it has been with front yard screening, whether it be by nature or otherwise, so.
And as you can see,
When it
there's
wasn't 6 feet.
plenty
on
of
the county
tree
road.
growth here
Yeah.
that you likely can't even see his house from the right of way unless
Yeah.
it's fall and those leaves are all gone. It's also in the very northwest corner of the city.
does
And let-
anyone have any issues with this?
I'm just curious as to, it says proposed shop, but earlier we were discussing something about exterior storage. So I'm just wondering what,
Just what they called it.
It's a detached accessory building
right,
because exterior or for accessory storage is an approved use in a residential zone. So we would love it if individuals, residents wouldn't store their things outside. And so having a detached accessory building to store those items to keep them out of the public right of way is an approved use.
right. I just seen shop. I was just wondering if it's like a home business or something that's,
So he has not indicated that he would run a home business, and that is one of the questions on the building permit application for a detached accessory structure larger than 2,000 square feet is, do you intend on running a home business? Again, that is not the question in front of you. The question in
Yeah.
front of you is,
Thank you.
can the building be in front of the house?
If nobody has any reason to be against this, I'd like to make a motion.
Please do.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
I would like to move to approve this variance request as stated in the proposed resolution number 2024-49.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. Any more discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, that motion is approved for recommendation to the city council. Okay. And we have one more variance.
Thanks again, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Property owner Carl Mitchell is requesting a variance from the side yard setback standard of 25 feet to 10 feet on the south property line of his residence at 23785 Marmon Street Northeast for the placement of a detached accessory structure. The applicant's property is 1.45 acres in size, located in the Meadows of Fish Lake subdivision and in a rural residential zoning district. According to section 42(7)(b)(1)(c), the side yard setback in the rural residential zoning district is 25 feet. This request for a reduction to the setback is due to grade and existing elevations on the property. When the Meadows of Fish Lake subdivision was graded by the developer back in 2005, each home site was raised in order to achieve walkout basement elevations. The applicant's property has an 8-foot elevation difference between the front of the house and the rear yard. Due to the elevation changes, a terrace boulder wall was constructed to support the driveway and parking pad, which limit buildable area available in the side yard. Additionally, the subsurface treatment system or septic system is located in the southeast corner of the rear yard, limiting the depth of the lot area available for the detached accessory structure to be placed. In order to meet the setback requirements for the septic system of 10 feet, as well as zoning regulations of section 14.2F, which states that no accessory building or detached private garage shall be located nearer the front lot line than the principal structure, a side yard setback reduction would be necessary. The Meadows of Fish Lake subdivision has a platted 10-foot drainage and utility easement on the side yard property lines of all lots. The city does not approve the placement of any structures in drainage and utility easements. The consideration of a variance requires the Planning Commission again consider the 3-factor test for practical difficulty. The first factor is reasonableness, which means that the landowner would use his property in a practical way but cannot do so under the rules. In this case, detached accessory structures are an approved accessory use in the rural residential zoning district per city ordinance. The second factor is that the landowner's problem is due to circumstances unique to the property and not caused by the landowner. In this case, there are zoning regulations restricting the placement of accessory structures in the front yard. The rear yard location of the subsurface treatment system limits the depth at which lots have buildable area. The third factor is the variance would not alter the essential character of the neighborhood. In this case, there are multiple detached accessory structures constructed throughout the Meadows of Fish Lake development. The accessory structure will be used for general storage, allowing for personal property to not be visible to adjoining lots or the city right-of-way as required by section 24(3) sub A. And by maintaining a 10-foot drainage and utility easement distance throughout the development, the proposed structure would not alter the essential character of this neighborhood. The Planning Commission should review the request, hold a public hearing, and recommend approval of the variance to the City Council as presented in Resolution 2024-50.
Thank you, Mr. Berg. And now we're going to open the public hearing. Mr. Mitchell, would you like to come up? Okay. So if you could just state your name and your address when you get up here,
Yeah.
please.
Carl Mitchell, 23785 Marvin Street's my address. So, bad aerial, should clean it up a little bit, the yard there. So
Throw some seed down.
we're working on it, I have a lot of projects going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, currently we are building a deck, on the back of the property, right here.
Carl, you're gonna have to stay at the podium or
Sorry.
the record will not keep.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
We're building the deck there, on that side. We basically want to also keep the other side of the yard for our kids. We have a 3.5-year-old and 1.5-year-old. And the water table is also super low. Like when we put the fence in, we're hitting water at 30 inches. And like currently right now with the deck, I got approval to do diamond piers because I can't get my postal digger past 30 inches. The water table is a little bit higher on this side as well. We try to move it back so we'd have 2 garage doors there, and it encroaches on the house if we try going to that 25-foot mark. Kind of why we want to put it a little bit closer to the property line. Aesthetically, it looks better. My neighbor, he's okay with it. He doesn't use that side of his yard for anything. It's just a slope with sandburs, so and some grass. But yeah, as you can see, that's kind of my drawing there. What we would like to do.
So how far are you from the side yard line then?
I would like to go 10 feet.
What is this right now on the bottom right corner that's within that 10-foot Yeah, what's that?
This is his septic system, his
Gotcha.
septic mound.
Okay, so was there a variance for that too?
There is not, they only are required to be 10 feet from a property
Okay,
line.
got it. It's just the detached accessory structures.
Correct.
Okay.
So as you can see, again, here's a dashed line with the 10-foot drainage and utility easement required on all lots in this subdivision. Mr. Mitchell is requesting to bring his structure from 25 feet right to that 10-foot drainage and utility easement line in order to be able to get around the boulder wall, maintain the proper setback distance from his subsurface sewage treatment system, as well as still be able to access the building from the front side. That first picture I had up, I took just the other day, and you can see the elevation difference here that the property owners are dealing with out there. And if you can see the yellow flags way back here on the other side of this fence, that is actually the front and rear of the proposed structure that far back from the right of way. So,
And that 10-foot mark is further this way, isn't it?
it would probably be right here.
Yep.
Now, what you can't see on this image is the neighbor also has the same 10-foot, but this, as you can see, the slope is going up. This is the neighbor's septic mound as well.
Okay.
So that property is, aside from a septic system, not usable to the neighbor for
Right.
anything other than the septic system.
Do you know how many feet it is from the structure to the wall then? How much that passage is?
That retaining wall?
I would say right now, the proposed location is about 25 feet, so it would move in to about 10 feet if it wasn't approved. It'd be really close. That's another reason why, like on the drawing there, actually, I want to just bump the shed out, because if I were to try actually making a square right there, I wouldn't be able to get to the backyard really, because the other side's fenced in. There's just a little gate for the garden to get back there. But
The other problem that Meadows of Fish Lake has is because it was built after 1997, it's required to maintain a secondary septic drain field.
And where is that on this site?
So Mr. Mitchell's building is gonna go where the secondary drain field was proposed, but he does have another
Available.
secondary site on the other side, on the north side of the house.
So it'd be where the playground is.
Correct.
And one of the hardships is that land is too low to want to put a large structure on.
Correct.
Otherwise, you'd be asking for a variance in the front yard.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Mitchell? Okay, thank you.
thank you.
And we'll close the public hearing and have our discussion then. Anyone?
I'm ready to make a motion.
I don't have a problem with it. If there's 10 foot on each side, there's a 20-foot easement through. You know, when you really look at it, there's enough space to do future needs. And,
That's a development requirement now, in all new developments, so that will be maintained through any new development through the city is at least a 10-foot drainage and utility easement on either side of the property line, so that should the city need to do maintenance or power companies to come in and bury lines, or Midco wants to move some cables between here and his neighboring lots, that's what that utility easement is designated for.
do you have to write in a new second location then for future drain field on something like this if we did approve it?
So the variance will get recorded to the property,
Yes.
which will then document that that secondary site is no longer what was approved as a secondary site or designated as a secondary site. So hopefully the next person coming along will realize they need to relocate the drain field to another side.
Does anyone have an issue?
The only one I have with it is, and again, I'm not saying I'm not in favor of this, I have to at least say this is. So he's asking to move into 10 feet, so 15, what does that bring that'd be 10 feet on the one side, based on the same shape, would be 30 by 32, essentially with plus, minus the notch. The only part I take issue with on the practicality piece of it is he could not need a variance and build a smaller garage. So I just have to at least say that for the sake
Okay.
of the variance. I don't know if anybody else sees that or not, or maybe I'm- that, it just, again, still have to be careful with some of these variances to make sure that we're within the spirit of it.
The spirit. Down here?
Again, I want to give people what they want to, I just,
Yeah. Any
So,
issues down this way?
Erin, can you confirm that that size is within that's an approved accessory size for
Oh
that
my
lot,
goodness,
right?
so this
Oh.
is very deceptive. This is like a 920-foot deep lot. This is,
Right.
he would easily be able to put that size of a structure.
yeah, the size that is the part. My one issue I take with the variance request on this is he wouldn't need a variance request if he was requesting a smaller garage, and therefore the practicality issue isn't related to the land at this point. Now it becomes related to the size of the garage that he wants. He's creating that issue at that point.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Without it, it does limit what he's allowed to do.
Correct. It's not that he can't have a
Right,
garage.
right,
It's the size that he wants to go.
right. Yep.
If he moved it though, the wall impedes his access.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
And obviously.
But if it were smaller, you're saying that,
Okay, alternatively, right, and again, and I'm usually the first one to say, I don't want to try to tell someone how to do it. However, alternatively, if this was quarter turned and you ran it this way, you could go over that distance, and if you brought back that notch and just did a square, you could still be 25 in, and you're losing whatever that difference is on the front to give yourself the access around the boulder wall.
would you like to ask Mr. Mitchell if that's a possibility?
Again, I'm more stating it just for the conversation of,
Okay.
we have a variance in front of us.
Is
Does that still fit the need? I'm asking this body, does that still fit the spirit of a variance of practical difficulty if it's manageable?
He could be asking to put it in the front yard on the north end as well, and
Not-
requesting a
not-
variance
not-
for that.
Not arguing that, so, but I could say the same thing here again, is it?
Does it have to have an improved service to get to it then?
It does not. It does not. Although he would be permitted a second driveway because he's in the rural residential zoning district.
Yeah.
He will need to come in and get a permit for a second driveway should he want to put an access onto Marmon Street.
I don't-
Tanner, does the answer to your question make any difference on how you're gonna vote, if you think?
Again, I guess I was more looking for the opinion of this body, if it still sees it that way.
Yeah.
At that, I'm truly asking, I'm not trying to be
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
clever about it, I'm just,
The-
again, I
this-
wanna make
yeah.
sure we're being true to the spirit of variances with the amount of,
Yep.
that we get, and with creating precedent, I just really wanna make sure we're,
And that's exactly why I ask your opinion too.
yeah,
So we
it's,
can bring up these things.
I'd love to approve this too, I just, I wanted to get an idea of where everyone else sees that as well, because again, it is possible, I'm not saying I want you to have a smaller garage, this goes to a bigger issue of when variances come up, how far do we keep going and what do we consider?
So
Practical.
It
public
seems-
hearing notices were sent to the entire neighborhood, actually beyond the entire neighborhood. I have 0 calls, and you have 0 people here tonight speaking against the variance as well, so that's another consideration.
And
Yeah,
this is
no,
kind
thank
of a
you for that.
normal sized building within that neighborhood also.
There's actually
correct?
larger
Yeah.
buildings in that subdivision than what he's actually
Put more
asking
things in it.
Yeah.
I have one comment on that, because you were asking opinions of the
Yeah,
of the group.
absolutely, that was more for
So
discussion.
my opinion is, I think the responsibility of this body is to make sure that we're following ordinances and code, and we're doing what is recommended by our planning team. I mean, they're the people that know what to do. And when that is met, I hate to infringe on a resident's ability to put in on their property what they want if it doesn't violate a city ordinance. So.
Or the spirit.
For this, yeah, I mean, it's their property. They should have, if they're gonna put an accessory structure, it should look like they want it to look, as long as it's meeting code. It should be what size they need and want, as long as it's meeting code. So, you know, I read through this at home, and by the time I was done, I've already written the motion on the top.
No, and I'm with you, like
Oh, you
I
don't
said,
need
I really
anymore.
just go back.
Yeah,
and-
right, I mean, it's all right here, you know, I mean.
And I agree that it fits the city parameters up to the point of wanting the variance to be closer to the setback
Right,
requirement. And if the request for a variance is practical difficulties not brought on by the property owner,
mm-hmm, exactly.
Yeah.
does the size of the garage, and again, I'm saying this more for at-large, for future reference here, but does the size he's requesting, is that not a practical difficulty created by the landowner? And therefore wouldn't need a variance if he built smaller?
Well, I think, you know, when Aaron is talking about, and with the drawings that he's given us with the elevation of the property and the amount of, you know, him stating he can't even put a pole down for a fence, 30 feet, that I feel comfortable and I have confidence in the recommendation of our planning department as well as the statement made by our resident that, you know, the variance as attached to this packet that our city staff is recommending outlines their recommendation of putting this through, which gives me the confidence that that size building is fine and there would be no necessity for it to be any smaller or relocated. And that's just my opinion, you know, as being on the planning department, because we want to meet the rules, we have to follow ordinances, and we need to keep our residents happy. So when we have variances, to me, like this one, I see it as a really simple request, understanding that, you know, a lot of times we do have to have variances for purposes that, you know, when we have these wetlands, every property is unique.
Again, absolutely, I don't take any issue with that. I just
Right.
want to, like I said, try to start
Yeah,
getting an idea of, is this a practical difficulty created by the landowner by choosing the size of the structure that they want? That's my only, like I said, thing I want to put out there for that.
So although variances are reviewed case by case, I would
Right.
point out a variance that you all recommended approval, 1900 block of 4th Street, where a resident asked to place a even much larger detached accessory structure in the front of his house because he didn't want to put it in the side yard. That was very thin, in my opinion, on practical difficulty or reasonableness. That was approved, although each variance should be heard case by case.
Case by case, and that's, you talk about setting a precedent, and when it comes to variances, I don't see that necessarily as creating new precedent. That's why we have the ordinances. If we went and started changing ordinances, I could see that as, yes, now we're really setting precedent, but as Aaron's saying, you know, case by case, you know, and when I look at this, yes, it could be smaller, but then again, we're shrinking what he's allowed to have, and, you know, we don't know his needs specifically, and if that's what he proposed because he's got plans for it and he's allowed to do it, I have no problem with, you know, recommending approval for this.
And in defense of Tanner, I mean, I do understand exactly what you're saying, and, because I think we started this year questioning whether we really had to adhere to those 3 tests. And I think we understand now that we really do have to do it, and I understand how you're.
Yeah, like I
Arguing
said,
that-
I'm not trying to challenge, I'm not trying to say he shouldn't, I'm not trying to say which way I'm gonna vote on. It seemed like a good enough opportunity, it was clear enough one, and I remember the one you were talking about, and I don't think I think that one came with discussion as well. And I don't know if it was a 5-0 on or 7-0 on that one, but again, I saw this as an opportunity, and I really just wanted to get that out there, because that is something that I've questioned over the years, when we've approved and not approved stuff of, at what point is it truly brought, you know, the variance, because, like I said, we just had somebody who had, you know, the one previous, they had wetlands, it's slightly in front of the house, you know, handful of things, but in this scenario, the size, in my opinion, is determining how far he's trying to go with it, so could he be able to do this, could he be able to do something else, and therefore it's not, doesn't qualify under a variance because it's not a practical difficulty, not created by
So the
him.
other item that I will point out is that This variance request is to reduce the setback, and that is a proposed size. So we still need to review the building permit, we still need to review everything yet to determine, just like the previous case. Just because that's what the applicant is proposing doesn't mean that that's what they're gonna get. He's asking for placement. That's really what the question is here.
Okay.
Commissioner
Make a motion.
Johnson, I would like to request we close discussion on this, and I would like to make a motion.
Great.
You're on fire.
I'm on fire. I had a lot of time on my hands yesterday. I don't know. Okay, I would like to make a motion granting a variance.
Recommending.
Or recommending granting a variance as written in the attached resolution 2024-50.
Is there a second?
Second.
Perfect. And any more discussion? Okay. So to the motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
Okay. The motion passes. And that will go to city council when? Again?
August 12th.
August 12th. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mitchell, very much. Okay, I think we have a city council update at this point.
Good evening,
Good evening.
Commissioners. Jim Smith, East Bethel City Council. Last night we had a work meeting, and B-Rock, the repair guy, we had one written complaint. He's been in business for like 13 years. And between him and his neighbor, where the difference was, they, I guess, have worked it out. So we as a council decided to approve it, but they're gonna work out like a contract. And we're gonna try it out to see to make sure everything works together. So we're given an opportunity. We don't wanna kick businesses out of our city. That's the whole thing. And any time that I've been past his place, it looks great. And so we wanna give him a chance. So that's what we're doing. And then the rooster thing came up again.
Yes.
And we decided, we talked about that, and Aaron's gonna check with surrounding cities to see what their type of ordinance is on roosters. And he'll get back to us, and then we'll talk about that one later, again.
So no decision on the roosters yet?
No, they're
Okay.
still running around.
All right.
And then, for the variance on the trailer park situation was denied. And the variance for in the in-ground swimming pool, we approved.
Well, they
Last-
moved it, correct?
Yeah, yep, they moved it, and they came back with a lot of information for us. So it was great what they did, and pictures. So I mean, it's a lot better.
Yeah.
And a lot more easier to understand
Mhm.
than when it was first brought to us. But that's all I got.
And with the trailer park, I mean, they're still wanting to work with the city, right?
That's our goal, and we want to work with them, because I don't know if any of you guys have been in there. I have, and they really have improved it. I mean, before it was, just to be honest, it was a dumpster.
Yeah.
It was terrible. So that, they're trying to do that. So we want to work with them,
Exactly.
because I mean, it benefits all our residents and stuff too. So hopefully they will do that. We can work together to fix it. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to discuss? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Okay,
I
and
can't say anything.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are done
Yay.
for the night. Thank you.